Gotta go fast! Quick! Tell the title! Go, 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 go!
Sonic the Hedgehog. Dungeons and Dragons.
Richard and Karl present!
Yeah, we're presenting something. I'm Karl.
Hi, Richard.
And we're going fast.
Gotta go fast. Alright, but let's slow it down a bit here. Before we get into the topic of Sonic the Hedgehog, let's go first to what's new in Carl Hills.
Well, I mean, it's springtime, finally, in Saskatchewan. My brother's wife has been sending me Snapchats.
Pause first. There's a huge hole in your story. Saskatchewan doesn't have spring, but please continue describing the yearly thaw.
Well, okay, so my brother's wife has been sending me Snapchats of all like the flowers and the green grass and the blue skies and the positive temperatures in BC, and until about like a week ago, we were still getting like freaking snow, and it was just, like it was awful. But the snow is finally almost all gone. There's still like only the largest snow piles have. Well, I mean, now they've turned to dirt piles. I don't know if this is the case in the rest of the world, but we put a lot of sand on our roads to like keep traction when you're driving around in the winter, and then all the snow piles just turn into giant piles of like dirt. It's really kind of gross.
Yeah, in the case of... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we don't get flowers here. You know it's spring when the dirt piles come out.
That is Peak Saskatchewan. Having once spent a hellish 4 years there, I can agree that you get dirt piles. Here, it's not so much as piles, but it's actually really funny because, like, what I would consider an average day is enough snow to, like, shut down the campus, to just give up on sidewalks. They drive plow trucks down the street, right? Like, every sidewalk has a plow truck to fight the snow. I'm just like, you know what's funny? Those wouldn't even work in Saskatchewan because they just get stuck in the snow and die. Like, there's too much snow to use snow-removing equipment in Saskatchewan. So...
But yeah, I mean, so basically that's what's new with me. You know, it's springtime, time for a refresh. So, you know, gotta, like, do some, like, cleaning and stuff and repair my garage so that eventually our listeners will get to hear about successful sandblasters, artificial windows, and the like.
So... most likely, as our listeners will get to hear from my new co-host how Karl died in a dust explosion then drowned. But, moving on from that, you're not even going to ask how things are going in my world? I get it.
Well, no, I was getting there. I just had a kind of a big rant. I had a longer rant about springtime than I realized I would have.
I mean, you're technically at 3 minutes, so your rant doesn't even fill the commercial break in a conventional TV cycle.
So what's new with you, Richard?
So I'm getting to the end game of my semester, and it's one of those things where I've technically finished all my assignments with 3 weeks left, but because I'm lawful good, despite my edgy exterior and my insults at you, I am a lawful good person, which means I'm compelled to attend these classes that have no grades they can give me left. Like, I just can't do it. I have class tomorrow at noon, and the teacher's like, oh, it's just a drop-in casual Q&A session, completely optional. And you know I have to go to it. I can't stop myself.
Ooh, I feel like you're going to be on the answer side of that Q&A.
I mean, I do like to try and have a one-on-one meeting with each of the professors and tell them how their class could have been better.
Ooh.
Actually, that goes over really well. Like, I went in with one of my redacted professors about redacted, and we had a lengthy redacted conversation about how to structure the units so you get a cleaner following of learning goals through the semester. Like, it was a really productive meeting because I love talking to teachers, but I also could just call in sick this entire week and it'd have no actual effect on my life whatsoever.
Right, because there's no more assignments that are, like, they're just giving you time to work on your assignments that are due in 2 weeks, right?
Exactly. Which is so hard for me not to be sassy. So I'm a tutor, I'm a Learn Well facilitator, I support education. But when I check at the student Discord and people are like, I got like 7 assignments left to do, this is some nonsense bullshit, I'm like, do I tell you that I finished a few days ago and I just have my feet up? And I have crippling ADHD and a short attention span? Like, it's like part of me wants to help you, part of me wants to let you vent, but on the other hand, the desire to be sassy is so overpowering in my core that I have to actively repress it and hold it in. But yeah, so now I've started going to town on working hard on my book 2 of my series because I've already completed the semester. And that's pretty much my days. Is I found a tool called the Most Dangerous Writing app, where what it does is you take more than 6 seconds between keystrokes, it deletes all the progress you've done. So I set this thing for an hour, and then whenever my typing speed slows down, it starts flashing red being like warning, 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 to try and keep my brain on task. It's really effective if you don't care about yourself. So I do have mild wrist and finger pain because I'm like, I need to get this done. I'm making great stride, but it would be the equivalency of if I put a collar around your neck and if you took too long to make a pizza, it tased you.
Oof.
Which would greatly improve pizza efficiency.
that it would. I mean, I'm just kind of imagining this now. I feel like it'd be like one of those like the dog collars that if the dog goes outside of the zone, it zaps them, and so then like the zone would move, and it's like, okay, you got a pizza, and then you have the zone would slowly be moving to the other end of the pizza line, and if you don't follow it, then you get zapped.
Another tack too is you build a scale into the counter, right? And you know how much the toppings weigh. So what you do is you have to make sure the scale's increasing, and if it's not moving at the same rate, it zaps you, and then it resets when the pizza goes through. So it's like you have weight sensors, and you have to be moving along adding toppings. And you have it programmed in so it knows how much you're putting on. And you can also zap people if they over-topping at the wrong spot.
Ooh, yeah. This is starting to sound like the future for sure.
Oh, no. So anyone listening to this, do not implement this. Please. Please.
Yeah, I feel like you might be violating a few labor standards.
For now. I mean, at some point, someone passed a law that you can work for 48 hours that's not overtime because we do it on week, not a day, even though no doctor thinks you should ever put in a 16-hour shift.
Is that like an Ontario thing? Because, like, me,
I think so.
For my job, I have, like, read the labor standards for Saskatchewan for the most part. And, like, in Saskatchewan, you're required to pay overtime at 40 hours a week or 8 hours in a day, whichever is greater.
Yeah.
And then you could be scheduled for 44 hours a week before you can just
I think I
decide not to
misspoke
work.
on my specifics, but it was definitely for one of my jobs at Redacted, because they would just schedule me 3 12-hour shifts. I didn't get overtime, but I didn't get to see the sun or do anything I loved. Because you could just trap someone there and make them technically not go over the weekly limit, which means you could force them to work more time in a day than is biologically recommended by any health official.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the labor standards would actually protect you in that case, because the whole 8 hours in a day, that would end up being greater than more than 40 hours in a week, so you'd have to be paid for the one that was greater.
Yeah, since I've never got that payment in my life, I have to assume it doesn't apply here. So,
well, and I mean, also there's like a statute of limitations on how long you can kind of claim that stuff. So if you feel like you're being abused in your workplace, then feel like the labor standards could help you, then you should get that. For the record,
I've definitely called labor standards more times than most sane human beings, so I've done my fair share of whistleblowing, to the point where I could probably whistleblow enough to make the Song of Storms happen.
But we should probably move much more quickly onto the topic of today's episode.
All right, so let's start with the classic first question of Sonic the Hedgehog. What was your first Sonic the Hedgehog experience? And I really hope it wasn't Reddit.
No. My first Sonic the Hedgehog experience was definitely on the original Sega Genesis.
Nice.
Just playing like classic Sonic. But I never actually owned a Sega of my own. And I think like Green Hill Zone, I've beat that one like a million times, but then the levels after that, it's like I don't know them. So,
well, it's kind of interesting. So I never had a Sega, but I did have a Windows 93 laptop that was roughly the size of a briefcase. And my one video game for it was the CD version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is the best Sonic game except for maybe Sonic Mania or Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. So my first Sonic the Hedgehog experience was on my computer trying to beat Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which with my medically diagnosed stupid fingers. You wouldn't think that game's difficult. Sonic games don't seem difficult, but they ramp up pretty fast. And that was my first Sonic the Hedgehog video game experience. However, I had a deep love for the Sonic X TV show. Because it was fantastic. Although there was like 5 different Sonic shows I've seen bits and pieces of over my life. Have you watched any of the Sonic TV shows at any point?
It's kind of like Spider-Man or Batman in that way, where it's like you say, there's so many different variations, or even like Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo kind of falls in this category, where there's so many different iterations. Like, I'm not sure which one I've seen or what's even canon in what story.
Because I know they did one that was Sonic Underground, where they had magical music instruments and it had nothing to do with the franchise as a whole. And I loved it, but I also am not sure it really existed. Maybe I just made this up, or I was watching like YTV at midnight and it would air reruns of it. So I'm not actually certain the show exists, but I remember it pretty vividly.
Oh man. Okay, just as an interesting fun fact, Sonic the Hedgehog CD. I don't know if that's the one that you were talking about specifically, but it was released for the Sega CD system in 1993. Then it was released for Windows in 1995, which makes sense because you probably had Windows 95 since 93 doesn't exist.
There might have been flaws in my story. Anyway.
But more to the point, apparently that was re-released in 2012 for Android, and then because the failed Ouya, which I don't know if any of our listeners would even know what that is, because apparently it was that much of a failure. But yeah, there was a Sonic game released for the Ouya.
That is hilarious. Oh man, so for Sonic games, what are your personal favorite ones you've played? Because I don't know how many later ones you played, but I could still sing the final boss music from Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for GameCube, because that's just one of my favorite video games of all time. See, Sonic has always been a super cool and interesting character to me, but for some reason, well, actually, because it mostly wasn't Nintendo, I really haven't played that much Sonic. It's kind of funny, because almost all my Sonic games I played on Nintendo systems. So I had Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 for the GameCube. I had Sonic Advanced 1 through 4 for the Game Boy Advance, which had fantastic link cable co-op.
Ooh, yeah.
The Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure was one of the best monster-raising minigames of all time.
Just as a quick little side note, I like Nintendo games and Nintendo products, but the large number of peripherals that you can get for Nintendo does sometimes end up being a barrier to entry. Particularly as it comes as, like, if one person has the link cable, then the other person also has to have the game and the system.
Shockingly, some Nintendo, if memory serves, Sonic Advance, you only needed the one cartridge for some of the modes in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple games that got away with that. I think Zelda 4 Swords was another one.
Well, I know that the DS definitely had
awesome download play. Oh
yeah.
Man, I was so sad that the Switch didn't implement that. Like, how cool would it have been to be like, want to play Mario Kart, and I just pull up my Switch and click the download play button and play Mario Kart with you? But they're like, you know what we could do is sell 7 more copies of Mario Kart instead.
Well, I mean, since the days of Sonic, games have become a little bit too large to be able to actually support that sort of download play, I think.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't, because I'm not a tech expert, but I think about, using, port forwarding and things, like how Steam can remote play together. I'm like, I feel like the Switch, if it really wanted to, could have one Switch with the game and another one acting as a controller input, but you're viewing it on your screen. I'm not a scientist, but I feel like that has to be possible. But it doesn't make money, so why would you do it?
Yeah.
Right.
But meaning we're quickly getting off track here.
I don't know. I was going to challenge you to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on one of our future streams, because we can just kind of run that on the magical internet GameCube that our uncle at Nintendo built for us. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely I did play some of the GameCube games, the Sonic GameCube games. I think because of you.
Probably. That sounds like a me thing.
And because the Wii was awesome and it had the backwards compatibility to just play the
GameCube.
GameCube games.
Technically, it had a weird backwards compatibility for like every Nintendo system. With you could just buy your game for $5 for your NES. But that's a full other debate. I could rant for half an hour about how streaming your online games is just empirically worse than just owning your game, or how they'd expect me to buy Majora's Mask 7 times. But
but more to the point.
Let's pivot into the first Sonic movie, because we're both familiar with that.
Definitely.
And we can't spoil the second movie because we haven't went on our date yet.
Well, see, I'm not sure if I can't see that movie because it's not with Robert Pattinson.
First off, I want Robert Pattinson to Shadow the Hedgehog deeply. Like, there's few things in life I actually want more. So I'm going to give a quick monologue about the Shadow the Hedgehog game. So, when I was young, I super enjoyed Sonic Adventure 1, Sonic Adventure 2, and I less enjoyed Sonic Heroes. But there was a series of big hit games going. And then they made Shadow the Hedgehog, which had the same box art as Devil May Cry, but for some reason, instead of Dante, it was Shadow the Hedgehog with a machine gun.
Right.
And that game is one of the most entertaining trash fires ever made. People say it's the worst game ever made. They might be onto something. But for a moment, take a moment to appreciate that a game existed, and they greenlit it, that they took a red and black version of their protagonist, gave him a machine gun, and made Hedgehog Grand Theft Auto May Cry. And it's like, what the... How is that a thing that exists? So, when this character makes it into the cinematic universe, I want it to be every bit as ridiculous. Like, just... We watched Sonic 1, happy, fun time, beautiful movie. We watched Sonic 2 and learn about teamwork and friendship. We watched Sonic 3, The Empire Strikes Back. It'll probably be slightly worse than Sonic 2 because of how movies work. And then we just get an 18-plus rated Shadow the Hedgehog movie by the director of Deadpool, where it's just hyper-violent for no reason. Because they have the source material that's hyper-violent for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow the Hedgehog is definitely a very strange thing. But I am definitely actually, I think probably on Monday I'm going to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with my girlfriend because
that's not me.
She said she wants to see it.
Well, fine. I'll go see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with my girlfriend then. I say completely seriously. I'm going to text her right now. Guess we're not going to stream it together. I'm going to go on a date with my actual girlfriend then. Be that way. And message has been sent.
Oh, so much spite in making you go on a date.
But in all seriousness, I am excited for that movie because the first one, it's kind of an interesting chain of events. So Defective Pikachu comes out. I'm like, oh, this was a movie adaptation that, other than the Torterra Garden, was actually really good. Well, and the ending, and there's a lot of things they could have did better, but for a game adaptation, it raised the bar a fair bit.
Right.
And then Sonic just came out, was not a good, it wasn't a good adaptation, it was just a good movie. And I'm still getting over the fact that it was just a good movie I've seen like 6 times. Because it was just good.
I enjoy the fact that Jim Carrey hasn't been canceled yet, because he makes an excellent Dr. Eggman.
So the big debate right now is he's considering retiring from movies, and people are like, but we need you for Sonic 3, how dare you? Actually, weirdly, my favorite character in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie is his life partner assistant. Because that was not a Sonic character in any Sonic media ever, but my favorite line in the entire movie is, do you want a latte? Of course I want your lattes! They're delicious! Thank you! And I'm like, yes! That was the best scene by far.
Well, yeah, it is actually something that they managed to add to the show, like because the original Sonic series didn't have any protagonists besides the characters like Sonic and Tails.
Yeah.
Like if they had just tried to do some sort of like animated thing, or like there was just a lot of ways that they could have screwed it up because they had so much
they almost had too much source
creative
material.
license.
Part of it, too, is they had so much source material. Like, the Sonic X cartoon adapted 3 main video games, like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, were big, sprawling, almost Marvel movie-esque giant set pieces, like run up the pyramids, this and that. So their hardest task, I think they had for making the live-action Sonic the Hedgehog, was to ground it enough, but not overkill it. Because if they made it a gritty reboot, it would have been terrible. But it would have been so easy to make it cheesy. So what they did was they knew it'd be cheesy, so it's like they made Sonic younger, so him being a childish idiot made perfect sense because they then adopted him as a child. So it was a good way for them to keep like that wonder and joy alive. And yeah, of course, Eggman was just perfectly done.
Yeah, and then they left the first movie open for a sequel hook where it's like, because he's on the weird mushroom planet. And
well, of course they left it for a sequel hook. I mean, like, even the games are like Sonic 1, 2, 3. That's what the numbers were. Like, you're not just going to make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'm actually shocked that Detective Pikachu ended without there being a Detective Pikachu, and they didn't go to Pokemon Cinematic Universe.
Well, no, I really actually, the sequel hook that they left for Sonic the Hedgehog was
reasonable,
better. But I feel like it was better than most sequel hooks.
Because the movie still would have worked in a vacuum.
Yeah, like Dr. Eggman is like the super genius, and then he's just like, oh, I'm on an alien planet. Well, I guess when life hands you lemons. Yeah.
Also, you get to watch him go slowly mad in the best possible way.
Yeah, like I'm really excited to see the new Sonic movie because I think that sequel hook was great, and the first Sonic movie was also great.
Also, my favorite joke of all time, and I am declaring this is literally my favorite joke of all time. So Tails' full name is Miles Tails Prowler, which spells out miles per hour.
Okay.
Which is the best joke of all time, that his name is Tails Miles Per Hour.
Okay.
So it's Sonic and miles per hour. Like, that is just the dumbest joke, and it is pure entertainment. Because, you see, like, growing up, I never played Sonic to be Sonic. I was the younger brother. That's not how that worked. My main character was Tails. Like, if Tails was in Smash Bros., I'd actually main Tails. 100%. Every game that gives me this character select for a Sonic game, I'd pick Tails, because Tails is Sonic, but smarter and awesome. And, like, this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the Tails movie. Of course you get my money. It's like Knuckles is in it too, and they got a way more qualified actor than necessary. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's cool, but Tails, man.
But okay, so I got a question for you, actually. What did you think of the original design for Sonic for the movie?
So, what is so impressive is they dropped the ball so hard, but they listened. And what is the biggest plot twist of our generation? Is a evil corporate overlord making a movie, realized their fans weren't buying into it, and they did a whole rehaul. These CGI artists, sure, they want to kill all of us, but they actually listened and did it. So, I don't think it's a controversy. Instead, it's a success story. Because there's so many media products and things where people will be like, this could be better, what's wrong with you? And they see the negativity and they just give up trying to fix it. They're like, oh yeah, fans are spiteful. But sometimes there's valid complaints. And I do think a lot of products could benefit from the entire world yelling at you and you kind of meeting them in the middle a bit. Like,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
But so then, like, bring this back around to kind of go off topic, I guess, a bit, not bring it back around, off topic a bit. Like, there was a petition from fans of Star Wars to be like, hey, you know, like, the last Star Wars movie was terrible. Like, you should just, like, let us write it better.
So what's interesting about that is I'm a fan of actionable change. So if you go up and be like, this is dumb, like I do this a lot when I do talk to students before going into meetings with professors, is they'll be like, I hate Professor Blank, they're stupid. I'm like, can you be more specific? Because that's not an actionable change. It's like, well, they expected me to learn programming. I'm like, that's an actionable change. Let's see if there's a way that can be taught better to make it a little easier on you. So by saying the new Star Wars is stupid and I hate it, that's not an actionable change. That's just you being an angry nerd. If someone says, I'm kind of sick of Star Wars movies being about the Skywalker family. Can we watch something else? And then they make The Mandalorian. That's actionable change. You want to see a different part of it, so then you did it. So I'm not saying that The Mandalorian existed because everyone whined about Episode 9. But had they whined about, yo, can we have more Mandalorians instead? That's actually something a studio could do. It's kind of like if you say the new Pokemon game's bad when talking about the Diamond Pearl remakes. That's not actionable change. It's empirically true, but it's not actionable. Instead, you go, we didn't like that you, didn't fix the collision so you could just walk through walls. We didn't like the polish and presentation, and we didn't like that you didn't give us any contents from Pokemon Platinum. If you do a petition of add the Platinum features in, that's actionable change for the next time they do a Pokemon remake. Because they're not going to go fix the current game, but that may impact the next one.
Fair enough. And I mean, like you said, for Sonic in particular, people responded so strongly to the trailers that they actually fixed it. And now they have a better model for the second one, so any artifacts that were left over from the quick swap of art styles should be like the visual effects should be even better for this version, for this sequel, because they actually were dedicated to the newer style.
Oh yeah, but to go a bit more into the movie, because I loved it, the big things it does well is that they didn't put all the heavy lifting on one actor. A lot of movies have exactly one good actor and everyone else is terrible. Marvel's the best example. They'll have a strong, powerful, charismatic protagonist, usually a passable second character, and then everyone else just phones it in. Like, almost every Marvel villain is so one-dimensional you don't care. So for a video game adaptation to have a fully fleshed out three-dimensional protagonist, antagonist, and a couple supporting cast members was actually amazing. And the thing is, they only had like 6 characters in that movie total. Because they didn't want to inflate it, they just actually gave people their due time.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, your villain was as charismatic as your lead. That is great, because that gives them peak banter. And it's interesting is a lot of things they did, they actually kind of adapted. They made up a lot, especially when there's entire Sonic comic books, TV shows, movies, video games. There's tons of Sonic lore. And they definitely picked and chose their lore and didn't base it on any existing Sonic property. But I think it worked for them. Because they're like, okay, Green Hills Zone is actually just a small town named Green Hills, rather than the video game. So it's almost like they homage their creation, rather than trying to trill it out.
Well, I mean, again, like comparing it to Star Wars, where like there's like so much additional content. Like there's books, there's comics, there's animated series, and so like their whole extended universe is hugely popular among nerds. But for the average viewer like myself, like I liked the original trilogy. The prequel trilogy was passable, but then they started trying to like pull in weird things from this extended universe, and so like the compass that leads to the Sith planet, just to me that felt like a complete ass pull that made no sense to someone who's actually read the extended universe and done a lot more research. They're like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool that they homaged that. And it's like, no, that was not an homage. That was just like a slap to the face to anybody who's not a super nerd.
It's interesting. Like, I like to say about movies, one of the main things I judge them on is how complete and standalone they are. Because Marvel comes up a lot. And for me, I like a movie to be a standalone story. You watched your movie, you enjoyed your movie. That was it. Good job. Game over. And Sonic was a great movie. You could just sit and enjoy that movie. And it was delightful. But a lot of things want to be cinematic universes, and it's like I was watching the Hawkeye show, which is one of the Disney Plus shows, and the final villain was the Kingpin from the Daredevil show. And nowhere in Hawkeye do they actually talk about Kingpin until like the dramatic reveal at the end, and I'm like, you expect them to have watched a Netflix spin-off from 5 years ago to use as your villain? Are you kidding me? Because they didn't build him up in the show. He just was a reveal to be dramatic. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is terrible. This character should not even be in here. And I like the character, I like the actor, but you literally are just homaging something to show you own these intellectual properties now, and was not built up in the self-contained narrative in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's... I mean, the comic book adaptations are really tough for that in general because of like the huge wealth of information, and which again kind of brings us back to Sonic and the fact that they had a huge wealth of information, but I think they did in fact pare it down nicely and distill it into a complete standalone movie.
I mean, it's interesting is, to follow up on that, the only characters from the Sonic the Hedgehog multi-million-dollar franchise with its like 5,000 plus named characters, they only use Sonic and Robotnik. You know how much self-restraint you have to have when you have entire action figure lines? Like Sonic Mania, a really good Sonic video game, which was made in their more retro style for Switch and PALs, has 12 playable characters, I think. It's like Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and then like 2 new ones, and I don't know, some unlockable ones. Sonic Adventure 3 Battles, Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Rogue the Bat, Shadow, EG7462, Eggman. One of the Sonic games had Big the Cat for the fishing minigame. So when you have this much merchandise to only use Sonic and Eggman because you want to establish your main characters, credit. Credit where credit is due. Because every other character's like, okay, we need some humans in this thing. So we're going to make up characters because most Sonic TV shows have them paired with a kid, because that's what you do when you're making a cartoon, is you put in a child character to act as your audience's viewpoint. So the self-restraint to only put Tails in as a teaser, to not sell Knuckles shirts with the first movie, is impressive. That they were able to have that much self-control to only use Sonic and Eggman. And for the record, Sonic is in Smash, and everyone's like, oh, they should have Tails and Knuckles. I'm like, nah, y'all wrong. We want Eggman as Eggman Carl with his Wrecking Ball as the new Smash character. That would be the correct answer.
Yeah, so anyway, I think we're both pretty excited to see whether or not they can keep this energy up for the sequel.
Oh, absolutely.
Because,
like, the biggest thing they could do to ruin the sequel, which I don't think, I'm feeling good about it, is if they try and pull in too much Sonic at once. It's weird, but they have to have self-control over what they do. Like, they put in homages to Knuckles in the first movie, but never win anything. That and an owl that's been in no Sonic media whatsoever, and no one can tell you anything about that owl.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a strange one, because the owl, like, introduced the rings, which
kind of work like that in the games, because they bring you to bonus stages. Like, it almost makes sense.
Yeah.
Almost makes sense. But yeah, a lot of what I enjoyed about that movie is it actually was a good movie. Which is sounds like such a sassy not answer. But for a movie you can just sit, enjoy from beginning, middle, end, has themes, solid character arcs, character growth. Like, it had a lot going on. Like, Sonic's biggest character growth was not being a weirdo who lives in a cave and actually trusting people.
Right.
Eggman's biggest growth was going completely unhinged mad.
And now he gets to go even more insane.
Which is just going to be beautiful.
He's going to start turning animals into robots, or like, how is that? Is that going to be a plot point, or like?
I'm curious to see how it goes. Like, because that is like an iconic what the plot of the original games was effectively. But also, I don't know if they're going to go that well, because there are lots of Sonic properties. They're like, okay, we have a anthropomorphic person. Let's have it take place on Furry World. And I don't think they're going to make the cinematic movie be furry bait. So they're going to keep their actual Sonic the Hedgehog anthropomorphized animals down to a minimum. Because we do not need another Rogue the Bat scenario. And before we deep dive into how questionable it is to add sexualized features to animalistic characters in children's media while they're going through puberty, and how that can cause long-lasting psychological effects, let's move into our new closing segment of our episodes. I have replaced the random question of the day with the Twitch question of the day. So,
Twitch question of the day.
So this one's going to be to you from me to start this off. What game do you want to play next?
What game do I want to play next? Well, I mean, last week we were going to stream, and then you were exhausted, and you.
I hadn't slept in 2 days.
Okay, I did sleep in a little bit.
I hadn't slept in 2 days. Anyway.
Yeah. But more to the point, I then re-downloaded Super Smash Bros. So that we could have our 3-on-3 Squad Strike theme battles.
That sounds fantastic. For me, after this episode, I was strongly considering doing something Sonic the Hedgehog, because Sonic 2 is on the Switch that we could play just remotely.
Ooh, that's true.
Also, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, because our fans do love watching you beat me at games, is also like a fantastic one that could come up. So, but I'm with the Smash Bros. But to add a little bit of flair in, I'm going to put Sonic the Hedgehog on my 3-man team. That just seems appropriate after this episode. And maybe if I'm lucky, I can find a way to mod both their games between now and then to add Tails and Knuckles.
Well, yeah, and then you could go with round characters as one of your themes.
Oh, my theme is going to be Gotta Go Fast, and I was going to go Sonic, Captain Falcon, and somebody.
And Bowser Jr. because his car goes so fast? Or maybe Wario because he has a motorcycle.
Those are both options. Those are pretty solid Gotta Go Fast options. Pikachu, though. Pikachu.
Ooh.
Pikachu and Sonic feel like a natural tag team.
They do kind of seem like a natural tag team. I was playing a stamina battle with my buddy Aaron the other day.
Shout out to Aaron.
After I chose my character, I realized I chose wrong because I chose Pichu. So all of Pichu's moves hurt him.
What's hilarious is back when Smash Bros. Melee was such a big thing in my household, my brother would use Pichu just kind of like as a flex. Like, yeah, I could beat you with Pichu. Deal with it. But oh man, I think I'm going to go Sonic, Pikachu, Pichu for our first match and go Team Thunder Rodent.
In any event, yeah, I mean, we could definitely do some Sonic games because you seem to have a lot of fond nostalgia for the GameCube games, and I do recall them being pretty fun, the ones that we did play together. Absolutely.
Like, the best thing is on Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, they added a battle mode, which is kind of the most on-point naming convention possible. And that's something that's been weirdly missing from a lot of more modern Sonic games is you're basically going through a racetrack, but having a two-player and being able to kill each other just elevates it to that next level. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and remember, the Waltz of Blade Deluxe Edition with new cover by A.G. Nonsuch is available on my shop, and each copy you build gives me a little bit more funds to, I don't know, eat. Yep, that's it.
Well,
take care, bye.
And don't forget that each copy you buy helps support and build Richard's ego so that he can feel inspired to write the next book in the series.
I mean, I was going to pin if you buy books, I can afford food so I won't die so I can finish the second novel. That's kind of where my sales pitch was at. But I appreciate you trying to be like, yes, give a motivation and joy and support. I'm like, that's great. But also caffeine and nutrients definitely help. Like, my lunch today was Frozen Pierogies. It's $2 a bag. So if one viewer buys a book, that gives me another full pierogi meal. With
I really
maybe some bacon bits.
Eat the pierogies. I really hope you didn't eat the pierogies while they were frozen.
Oh, no. I did, like, a butter wine sauce, and the wine was actually just, like, I had, like, wine pickled sauerkraut. So I like made like a butter wine sauce and sautéed them, and they were delightful for a net cost of like $20. Not even, like $1. I had a pickled sauerkraut so there was a vegetable and it would hit nutrient counts.
But yes, thank you for supporting our show, listeners, and we hope to see you on our Twitch stream on Tuesdays, where we at least this week will time isn't linear, so we'll be playing something.
Most likely, and if we don't, it's Carl's fault. Take care and bye.
Bye.